Time for another What a Shout. Welcome back, one and all, to this week's edition of the Racing Post flagship feature weekend show. What a weekend we've got coming up. More sunshine beating down on the racegoers. Absolutely lovely. All right, so joining me back in the studio. Delighted to say, great sign of the times. You're back in the studio,
Yeah, glad to be back. Nice to be out of the house. Looking forward to it.
Yeah, lots to go through. Pat Cooney from our sponsors, Bet365. He's also back in that home office.
Yeah, good to be here, and we're already in March. Who would have thought? So lots to look forward to over the coming months.
We've got a great show coming up for you, but also joining us now to deal with a hot topic, we're going to go jump straight into it, is Lee Mottershead, senior writer from the Racing Post. Great to have you on, Lee.
Thanks, Dave. Good to be on.
Of course, if you've been under a rock and not heard the news this week, plenty has been going on. Catastrophically damaging week for racing. And Lee, let's hand this over to you then. Perhaps you can give us a quick synopsis of exactly what's gone on so far.
Yeah, we'll heavily abridge it, Dave. It all kicked off on Saturday evening when an image started to circulate on social media of Gordon Elliott, top Irish trainer, sat astride what looked to be a dead horse at his yard in Ireland. That then coincided with the Irish Horse Racing Regulatory Board putting out a tweet to say they were aware of an image and were investigating. Really through Saturday night until the point at which Gordon Elliott put out a statement saying he too was aware of an image. And then beyond, really, for the next 24 hours or so, there was much debate about whether what we'd seen there was an actual picture or something that had been very heavily photoshopped. And it was only really on Sunday evening, very late on Sunday evening, not far from midnight, when Gordon Elliott confirmed that it was a real picture. He apologised for it and sought to contextualise it by saying that the phone rang and he had sat down to take the phone call. There was huge criticism, understandably, of that through Monday. During Monday, the BHA moved, the British Horse Racing Authority moved to, in effect, ban Gordon Elliott from having runners in Britain pending an IHAB inquiry. Gordon then spoke to our colleague, David Jennings, and spoke about it having been a moment of madness and an indefensible act, which he heavily apologised. Gigginstown House stood on Monday, gave their support for Gordon while condemning the picture. And really, the story didn't just progress through Tuesday. Another image, this time a video, emerged on the Cheltenham-winning amateur jockey Rob James, again astride a dead horse with young men around him laughing. On Tuesday, Envoy Len, Gordon's top horse, left the stable along with other Cheveley Park stud-owned horses. And it's all led to this point where, as we're talking now, Dave, the IHB is having an inquiry with Gordon Elliott to determine his future.
Of course, we're filming on Friday morning. Lots has been said about this, Kills. It's obviously been, one of the worst weeks to be involved in racing that I can remember. The image is indefensible. I think we can say that. But here we are on Friday. Lots has been said. We don't want to regurgitate it. Of course, you're never going to please everyone. Everyone's got an opinion on it. But this has been a global rock, hasn't it? From the New York Times to the Sydney Morning Herald, and of course our mainstream media as well.
Yeah, I mean, we all got angry. I think that's, straight away everybody got angry just seeing that, because you know what damage it has done. It is, a case of showing a lack of respect for a horse that we tell people who may not be fans of racing that these horses are treated with the utmost respect from the moment they walk into the stable to the moment they leave, whether alive or they sadly pass away. And that is going to be thrown back in your face every single time you suggest that from now on. Yeah, the image was from a couple of years ago, Lee, as far as we know, isn't it? What has the damage been this week?
Well, I mean, I would expand on the point that Keel's made. If you look at the media in Britain and Ireland, how it's reacted during the course of this week, this has been covered very, very widely. I had one person say to me that they couldn't recall since Shergar's Kidnap, a racing story that had been so embraced by the wider media. Racing figures have been on television and on radio in Britain and Ireland. The BBC News over here, even though this is an Irish racing story, has covered it very heavily. We've had opinion pieces in newspapers that have been highly critical of horse racing. And I think it's for that reason that Keel's made. I'm very lucky, Dave. I work regularly at the major racing events
around the world. And two I draw in particular, the Grand National over here and the Melbourne Cup in Australia. They both draw very heavy criticism from people who are anti-horse racing, who believe it is cruel. And when people make that argument, what we come back at them with as racing fans, as racing lovers, is that there is nobody who cares for horses more than the people who work in horse racing. And the problem with what's happened over the last few days, that when we make that argument and those people come back at us with that picture and with that video, our defence of horse racing sounds hollow. And the tragedy is it isn't hollow. You know, I was in a racing yard on Tuesday, and everyone there was devastated by what happened. They felt a sense of betrayal by what had happened, because that image, that video and that picture, they are not a true representation of horse racing. But if you're not involved in horse racing, it's understandable that you won't believe what we're saying, because you will see evidence laid before you that looks very different. So I absolutely understand why the B8 moved to prevent Gordon Elliott being represented at future race meetings in Britain. I also absolutely understand why friends of Gordon Elliott and the Irish racing community, maybe in the last 40 hours, has almost come round to a position where they are being critical of the people who have condemned Gordon Elliott and Rob James. But my overriding point would be that it is absolutely vital that people outside of horse racing know that people inside horse racing are appalled by what we've seen in the last few days. And we should be appalled. We need to move on from it. And, you know, in all probability, Gordon and Rob will both have many years in horse racing in the future. But we have to, as I say, make clear that we are appalled. And if anybody in racing isn't appalled, then I think they need to have a very hard look at themselves.
Here. So now lots has been said. We know you've all had your opinions. Lots has been said on social media as well. There has been a slight swing, hasn't there? But these actions need to have consequences. The IHRB will now deal with that, and we'll decipher it later on. Let's talk about Cheltenham, Kills. Could you possibly have conceived at this time last year, we were hoping it would be on, the negative press that happened after the Cheltenham Festival, that in 2021 we'd be getting more negative, perhaps even worse negative press? What does this mean for Cheltenham?
I really hope that we get through the meeting and we don't have any serious injuries. I think that's become even more important because I think it's going to be jumped on if we do. So I just pray that everything runs as smoothly as possible. But yeah, there is going to be some bad publicity about it anyway. I think that's, we've just got to accept that.
Sheevely Park obviously moved their horses, as Lee said. We're waiting to see what happens with the other horses there. We'll leave that one there. But knowing now that Envoy Allen is going to turn up at the Cheltenham Festival in a championship race with a 1 next to Henry de Bromhead's name, what should punters be?
Well, somebody asked me this. Somebody put the question out there on Twitter the other day, and I went straight back and said, well, look, horses go to the Melbourne Cup. They sit in quarantine for 14 days, and then they come out and they've got an incredibly good record from Europe in the last 10 years. So it wouldn't overly concern me. And I think Paul Nicholls has come out and said it can be dodgy to move them because they get into different routines.
Diets.
But all the training has been done. Now, Gordon Elliott has said that he would talk to all the other trainers, specifically Willie Mullins and Henry de Bromhead, and so the details of what they'll have feed wise, and and on the exercise front, all the main exercises done. They're fit. We're talking 2 weeks away. So unless a horse is a serious worrier, in which case you've still got to deal with a trip to Cheltenham anyway. I wouldn't have thought it was that much of an issue. Yeah. It might be more of an issue in the longer run when they come back after Cheltenham and they adopt a new, different training regime, which might set them back a bit, because I think that there is an argument for saying that could happen, but I don't think it'll happen this soon.
Questions that need to be asked, and indeed will be in the next week and throughout the festival as well. So Kills says don't worry about it too much. Let's bring in Pat Cooney then. I guess from a market perspective, Pat, not much has changed.
No, not really. Normally at this time, once we've got the entries for the handicaps, we'll be going to town with a few of the specials. How many winners Willie Mullins will have, totaled winners, this, that, and the other. But not much has changed really. I think with the Envoyal and moving stable so near, we haven't got many reasons to try and get him beaten, but maybe that is one now. So I actually thought maybe the stable lass who looks after the horse would have gone with the horse to Henry de Bromhead, certainly to get through Cheltenham, but I'm not sure if that is still the case. But as we've touched on, really, you just hope to get to Cheltenham and please every horse come back safe and sound, and no whip bands as well. It's not just internally we're all looking at this, it's externally as well. And we just have to be aware of the perception outside of racing and work very, very hard at showing everybody what the real good side of racing is. So fingers crossed at Cheltenham, but we've got 28 races to get through. It's going to be a long 4 days for everyone.
Yeah, thanks, Pat. Thanks, Lee, then, for coming on. Your What a Shout debut. Will you promise to come back in better circumstances in the coming weeks ahead?
I very much hope so, Dave.
Great stuff. Thank you very much, Lee. So there you go. A sad hot potato of a topic dealt with. So the show must go on, and here's what we've got for you. Coming up the rest of the weekend on What a Shout. Racing clues. We'll be looking at what was a big weekend. I think we could say mainly at Kempton last weekend. The sun was shining. We'll be giving you all the big race previews this weekend. Greatwood Gold Cup amongst them. There's a Grimthorpe as well. Big calls from the panelists and, of course, the weekend winners. If you'd like to sign up to our sponsors, Bet365, when doing so, we have a referral code for you. Just type in SHOUT365. That's for a minimum £5 bet deposits for up to 100 bet credits. Terms and conditions apply. Delighted to say joining us this week, I tell you what, who better to bring in for the racing clues than the man who rode Tritonic himself. Adrian Heskin joins us from Oaksey House, I believe.
Yeah, just going to do an hour in Oaksey House now before heading off to Newbury for 4 rides today, and busy weekend and some good racing in Newbury.
Thanks for coming on, Adrian. It's been a great whirlwind so far, your career, hasn't it? And it got a feeling it's just about to get better in a couple of weeks' time. But Adrian, you started off in 2009 at Michael Hourigan's in Ireland. Your first winner, I make it Mystical Breeze in 2009.
Yeah, you're dead right. He was a great old horse. He gave me my first winner, and things probably escalated quite quickly from there. And Michael Hourigan, I have a lot to thank. I have to thank him a lot for what he's done for me. He really set me up and got me on a great path.
And of course, you then came over to the Cheltenham Festival. Following on from that, wasn't far behind, wasn't it? A new story in the cross-country race. Massive prize, tipped up by Tom Segal. Punter's Pal all of a sudden.
Yeah, so I suppose I was being thrown in a little bit at the deep end, and I didn't realise the magnitude of Cheltenham at the time. It was my first time being there, and probably all flew over my head a little bit. But it was a big shout from Michael Hourigan to put me up, and glad I could repair him. Yeah, look, it was great to get my first taste of Cheltenham success.
And of course, Martello Tower and the Albert Bartlett followed as well. One of 3 Grade 1 winners for you. 7 Grade 2 winners. Tritonic was one of them. But of course, those colours from Michael Hourigan, a new story, has been seen all over the place. Bet365 Gold Cup, which brings me seamlessly to a question from Pat Cooney.
Yeah, a question for Adrian. Now, back in 2010, you rode the Bet365 Gold Cup winner, Church Island at Sandown. Now, he was a 20-1 chance that day, but a few shrewdies fancied him because of the good ground. The only question was, who is this guy, AP Heskin, claiming 7? But when we put the feelers out, everyone was saying, oh, he's okay, don't you worry about him. And you took no prisoners during that race from start to finish. I just wondered what were your memories of it, because it was quite a big deal that day winning that race. There was 19 runners. It was a real hot, high-profile race that day.
Yeah, I suppose I was flying high from Cheltenham success, and after a good year in Ireland, it was another big stage, a horse I knew very well, and we all fancied him a little bit going there. I remember walking the track with Timmy Murphy that morning. He obviously had been with Michael Hourigan at the start of his career as well, and he basically just told me enjoy the day, and I really did. I went to the ferocious gallop, and I remember turning up for the fence. Everything was on the stretch for me, and it was a huge success for my age again, you know.
There you go, some big days in the sun then. I remember it was certainly shining there. Let's hope it shines on the rest of the show. Great to have Adrian on. Shall we have a look at some racing clues then from the past week? And of course, we've got to start with the Adonis. Kind of come to you with this, Keels. You liked him after he won at Ascot on his debut, Tritonic.
Yeah.
Very good performance there. Beat Casalupi that day.
Yeah, I like him now. It's funny, you get the aftermath of the race. I mean, obviously, we've had some really impressive winners of this race and blowout afterwards, solo, last year, for example. And immediately after the race, well, several time experts, not all of them, were straight on social media saying, well, actually, he wasn't much faster from 3 out of the line than the other novice hurdles on the card. And, my overriding thought then was, so what? We know how fast this horse can run because he's been placed behind group horses on the flat at 1.5 miles, including being second at Royal Ascot.
Yes, of course.
That's not an issue. And what he was very fast from the last of the line. And he's going to absolutely grab that hill. There were some that were crabbing his jumping. I mean, crikey, I've seen a hell of a lot worse jumpers than that.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? He started into one, I think it was the 5th. But he's, and he did kick the last one out. Well, he kicked the last one off the top. It fell to the floor very easily, I have to say. But his last jump was fine. I mean, the technique is there. You're never going to meet you get a very rare novice that jumps absolutely every flight of hurdles.
Does he win the Triumph?
I think he goes very, very close.
Yeah.
Yes.
What doesn't he want? Heavy ground, I suppose.
I don't think it's that much of a bother. I think he wants a test. But I mean, I think he'll handle it soft. But if it dries out, and we're talking Friday, it's normally the driest day of the week. And I made this point last week when I was doing a preview. This is a very late time for Cheltenham. In fact, I can't find a Friday falling on any later than the 19th in the last 10 years. And when the Friday has been between the 16th and 18th, which is 4 times in the last 10 years, 5 times in the last 10 years, it has been good on the final day 4 times. Ooh. Now, obviously, it's only a week, right? You know what I mean? And it might be a case of it's really dry the week before and it lashes down the whole week of Cheltenham this year. Yeah. You don't know. But I mean, the point is that the later it in, the more you think that it's going to be dry, you're going to get drier weather.
Yeah.
But if it's dry weather, he'll be faster than the others. I think that is.
You would imagine so. So we had Alan King on the show last week. All you viewers will know that. He gave us some strong vibes. Let's hope you were on. Let's now go to the man who was in the saddle. So Adrian Heskin, when exactly did you know that Tritonic was going to be a rocket in the Adonis?
I suppose I knew from pretty early on in the race. He jumped out. He was sharp over the first 2. I was really able to put him wherever I wanted to in the race. We were always a little bit concerned he would get caught for gears around Kempton, and I suppose he did a little bit. And a point I actually wanted to bring up was his jumping. People cribbed his jumping a little bit, but he was very good in Ascot when I was looking for him all the time. He jumped exceptionally well, and in Kempton at the weekend, he was just a little bit caught for speed, and I didn't want to go looking for big jumps out of him down the back. He was a little bit steady at 2 hurdles, but very, very accurate. And when he turned into the straight, I had a load of horse. He jumped the second last like a real hurdler, and it just flopped to the ground in front of him. He made no resemblance of a mistake. And going to the last, I think it was a done deal. I was just keeping the revs up on him, and he quickened very well from the back at the last. So it was a very impressive performance.
He could have gone round again, couldn't he? So you must be getting extremely excited now, and the McNeil family, of course, your retainership. It's exciting times, isn't it?
Most certainly is. And Max owns this horse with a good friend of his, Ian Dale. And it's a race Max has targeted since owning horses. He's been very lucky to have a couple of nice juveniles along the way, and he's been runner-up and 3rd spot in the Triumph Hurdle. But it would be a dream come true for him if this horse was able to win one, and it's great that he's a live contender. We certainly wouldn't be swapping him. I love him, his trainer loves him, and Max and the family love him as well. So it's great. He's ticked all the boxes thus far.
Yeah, got that addict experience. We all love him as well. Pat Cooney, you love him as well. The market loves him too.
Yeah, the betting public are all over him as well, and it was impressive. I actually thought, oh, hang on, Kempton, Sharp Track, he's going to be vulnerable here. I thought he was a little bit beatable, really, strictly on the book. But he beat the horse he beat narrowly at Ascot. He beat him by 10 lengths this time around. And I like what he did up the running, really. And I know Zanna here, the Irish horse, he's pretty impressive as well. But Tritonic, he won't be tapped for speed. He's a 99er on the flat, isn't he? He ran well in the Royal Ascot Handicap. I think he's sure to go off favourite. And, the public love these unbeaten horses as well. You've a couple in this race as well. But I think it's a real hot Triumph Hurdle this time around. But he looks the classy type, doesn't he? I know what Keels was saying about the time gurus. I think the time gurus are in love with Zanna here. He did an exceptional time when he won one of his races. Not so impressive next time out, I didn't think. But if Adrian says Tritonic can jump better than he has done, then I think he'll sure to be favourite and will take the world to beat it.
The Triumph Hurdle has warmed up extremely, hasn't it? Some other races on the card that we must decipher through. Tamarack to Mathan in the Pendle.
Yeah, he's a very good jumper, isn't he? And I actually didn't. I actually thought he might not stay. It was funny, the only race Paul Nicholls had him in the festival was the Grand Annual. And I thought, if he stays, he stays, but he might not. But he does jump really well, doesn't he? And obviously, it's a massive boost for
It is
for Heskin. I mean, you say. A lot of these horses run in small field races and they're not competitive. But this is a 150 horse that Heskin made look like really pedestrian.
Do you think they'll be tempted to run him in the Grand Annual off 150?
They might do. Run Green Teen in the off a similar mark last year as a novice, didn't they? So I don't see why not. Whether he's well enough handicapped or not, I don't know. But he's very decent.
There was the Dovecote that followed. Athol Street disappointed for the Nichols team.
Went out like a light. Went out really quickly, didn't he?
Cape Gentleman he's going to be a fun horse, isn't he?
Yeah,
Mick Mullins.
He's a decent horse. I don't think he's a brilliant horse by any stretch of the imagination, but they'll get some more wins out of him. I thought the big handicap chase, Clondor Castle, has only gone up £6 for that. I thought that was quite reasonably generous. They absolutely hacked up.
We didn't have much luck in that. I know you were on the Butcher's Seb. We'll come to Adrian about that in a minute because I want a word on this chap. I put Young Wolf up thinking that, right, the sun will be baking. It's going to be nearly good to firm. And they went such a gallop to that first fence.
Yeah.
Couldn't believe it. Anything that was novice was in trouble, weren't they?
Yeah, I mean, it's one of those cases where you really did not need anybody giving you sectionals to tell you they were going really fast there.
Ridiculous.
You know what I mean? And it took a lot. I mean, I really fancied the Butcher's Seb, but I think he was just taken off his feet.
Yes. Before we go to that chap, Clondor Storm then, Mr. Malarkey, of course, who won the race, ran well in it, did he? He's your benchmark. That would be a boost of sorts, wouldn't it, for Mr. Fisher?
You can definitely say so. Yeah, I mean, I do like Mr. Fisher
for Ryanair. So do I.
He's got a massive chance. Any double figures is still stupid. It just cannot be off. You're
slightly worried about the fact he's not been seen out this year, or you're just going to be trusting Endo?
I think it's probably the plan.
They were umming and ahhing about the Ascot Chase, and the ground had gone, I think, for him, hadn't it? And
he wants decent.
Might be a blessing in disguise. We'll see.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, I wouldn't be mad rush to back something to run in the Ascot Chase. It's hard work there, and it's not that long. It's not that far away.
I think they've just got it in their mind, team, Mr. Fisher, that when he came out in the Paddy Power Gold Cup, it was too bad to be true. Probably on ground he didn't like, but so we'll see. Look, boost there as well. So the Butcher's said, Adrian. Now this was a third win dot for this horse that you know better than anyone out there. We see that he wins second time out after a win dot. Has the wind up done him good? Was it a case of getting too far back? Has he got something up there, or is there a big one in him?
We're confident there's a big one in him along the way. We all thought he would have ran better in Kempton at the weekend, but as you've touched on already, they went a ferocious gallop. And the Butcher said it was his first run without the hood. And the way he has to be ridden, he's a bit of a law into the race, how the race is ran. You have to ride him for luck, get him switched off. And I think, to be honest, on Saturday with the gallop they went, he was beat after jumping 2 fences. Anytime I wanted to get an inch closer on him, I wasn't able to. And he's not a horse you can be putting under pressure from the word go. He came home quite strong, to be fair, past a few horses late on. But we all felt Kempton would be a perfect track for him. But it actually turned out it wasn't. It was too much of a speed track. And inexperience probably caught him out a little bit as well. But there's a big one in him along the way.
Do you think he shapes as an out-and-out stayer?
Very well.
Sorry, do you think he shapes like an out-and-out stayer? Oh, could the Bet365 Gold Cup?
On several occasions, he has shaped like he does want a good stamina test. His wind obviously catches him out a little bit. We toyed with the idea of dropping him back to 2.5 miles, but after running in Kempton at the weekend, I think that's not an option because he won't have the pace for 2.5 miles just at this grade. So I think we're just going to have to grin and bear it and keep running them over 3 and them staying handicap chases and keep riding them for luck, and he'll drop on one someday.
I'll tell you what, Ollie Murphy, Max McNeil, they'll be watching Keels there. I think he might just have found the target. Pat Cooney, get those prices up for your big race.
Yeah, it's an interesting one. Yeah, so that's very interesting. 2 horses caught my eye, not over the weekend, but on the Sunday, actually. Over at Fontwell, I thought Brewing Up a Storm was very impressive, beating McFabulous. He beat him by 5.5 lengths. So I don't think Cheltenham's for him, but he's definitely one to bear in mind for Aintree. And I think the bumper might be worth following. It was won by Brave Kingdom of Harry Whittington's. And it was plenty of horses were backed in the race, so lots of unknown quantities in it. But there was maybe 4 or 5 for good money that we saw. And he made all, he won by 4 lengths, and he looked pretty impressive. So certainly Brave Kingdom is one to follow, and Brewing Up a Storm from the Sunday day.
Yeah, I can see that. I mean, Brewing Up a Storm, I backed Brewing Up a Storm in running. I actually thought McFabulous was beaten after 2 hurdles. I mean, some horses don't take to Fontwell for some reason. You see that national spirit sometimes, and it just, you know, you think, how on earth has it gone like this? And I thought McFabulous was beat pretty much straight
just
away.
Put a line through it.
Put a line through that one. He's a decent horse.
Yeah.
But I don't know what it is with Fontwell. I mean, the ground wasn't even that bad.
It's mainly flat tracks at Fabulous, isn't it? Do you remember when Barracuda won the National Spirit? He was really workmanlike doing it there.
Yeah. I mean, some horses don't take to it, and he was just beat straight away.
Okay, put a line through that. There are your racing clues. Race previews, the 150, nice and early, for the Greatwood Gold Cup. It's a Grade 3 handicap. It's been a Nichols benefit over the years. Gronsonsi looks like he's going to be the top of the market. Kills, is that where the radar's going?
Yeah, it was earlier in the week, and you know, it's one of those things. Bookmakers actually had Modus ahead of him in the betting at the start of the week. I couldn't have that, an 11-year-old off a career high mark. Whereas you've got a 7-year-old who probably wants 2.5 mile on good ground, which is exactly what he's going to get. I mean, he absolutely toyed with Paint the Dream first time up this season. On that form, he's well handicapped, isn't he? On that form, he's just incredibly well handicapped. And he has got plenty of runs last year on ground that would have been too soft for him for the whole of last season. You know what I mean? You've got to remember, he wasn't beaten that far in a Kingwell Hurdle, giving weight to Fusel Raffles and that. Yeah. He's a good horse. Price has gone, hasn't it? Like, you know what I mean? He was 8-1 on Monday. He is 7-2-ish now. And the other one I like was Killer Clown, and the price has gone for him as well. Again, the form of that third to Alnadam at Sandown on bottomless ground that he didn't really like has worked out really well. He franked it himself at Kempton by bolting up. He's a stone higher than when he bolted up at Kempton, but he's still in the mid-130s. Yeah, they don't mind the rise. They wanted to get him in these better handicaps, didn't they? They are the two that I like. I haven't got anything sexy for you. Front of the market, I think one of those two will win. I'll tell you what, since Emma Lavelle came on this show, she has not been able to stop training winners. So let's hope we can put a bit of gold dust on Adrian Heskin, because Senior Citizen, he's an interesting horse.
Yeah, a very interesting horse. He loved coming back onto this nicer ground. He was running a lovely race in the Topham in Aintree, and probably just got caught up by the ground late on. He travelled real strongly. It looked like the winner turned in and got very tired. He runs well fresh. I think he's probably the least exposed horse in the race. He runs off a lovely racing weight of 10.7. Whereas majority of the field are pretty exposed. I think he could be just a dark horse coming into it. And I'm assuming that the Topham at Aintree would be the ideal plan for him at the end of the season. Am I right? Yeah, that's what we're kind of building him up to. Tom Bellamy gave him a lovely spin around there in December over the national fences, and we were going to run him last weekend in Kempton, and we were actually delighted we didn't. We're delighted we're going to Newbury with him tomorrow, and hopefully he can put himself spot on then for the top one. We got one there. Okay, that's interesting, isn't it? So all eyes on Aintree. Isn't it a pleasure? I know Cheltenham's just around the corner. Isn't it a pleasure to be talking about Aintree again, having missed it last year? Oh, absolutely, yeah. I love Aintree. I love the spectacle of the Grand National. I love all the other races on the Mile Made course as well.
I never back any winners there.
Yeah,
I mean,
that shouldn't bother you.
This year.
That's not going to bother you. I know it's not.
But I still love the.
It's just the sport's going to be absolutely brilliant. The Grand National coming back. Pat Cooney, what wins the Greatwood?
Well, I am a Killer Clown fan. You know, at Kempton over the 2 days, I thought 2 handicap chasers impressed the most. One was Royal Pagale and one was Killer Clown. So Royal Pagale's gone on to do wonderful things. Killer Clown, it's just a shame, isn't it? He's gone up to £15. But I was asking myself this morning, would he have won with a stone more on his back that day at Kempton? And the answer is yes. So I'm in the Killer Clown section. Grand Sanse, as you touched on, Paul Nicholls has won this 5 of the last 7. Bryony Frost aboard. This horse is a free-going, good jumper. You can see a Frodon-esque type ride from Bryony on that, and the public have latched on. I'm trying to look for outsiders, really, and you can only, if you're looking at an outsider, you're looking at horses who are talented but out of form. Born Survivor's a bit of interest for me. Dan Skelton, that's about 20-1 at the moment. Not often anything Dan Skelton runs right now is a 20-1 chance. This horse has been 152. He's now 138. So one's gone up a stone, one's gone down a stone. Maybe a back-to-form Born Survivor on better ground might be of interest, but the market's focusing on the 2 up-and-coming horses, Grand Sanse and Killer Clown, but I'm with the Clown.
The Clown for Pat Cooney. I like another Crick at the prices. He's interesting, this horse. Course and distance winner for Noel Williams, got no weight on his back, love the ground. And he's not run badly on soft ground since coming back from a long, whopping layoff. There is the Greatwood Gold Cup selections. Delighted to say we got to Kelso for our next big race preview, and it is the Premier Chase. Listed Chase 240, been won by some really good horses over the years. Many Clouds a couple of years back, we all remember, of course. And they've got Cloth Cap in the same colours for Trevor Hemmings. Are you with or against?
I'm against, just from a ratings perspective. I mean, obviously he was quite lowly rated when he won the Ladbrokes Trophy. Now, he's been a horse I've liked for a long while, and he does want good ground. I'm telling everybody how well handicapped he was for ages, and just happened to have the week off and wasn't able to tip him when it come to winning the big race.
We'll believe you.
Rather annoying, but yeah, he's got his chance, but he's got a bit to do at the weight. You've got to bear in mind that he's got.
Could have come to the Grimthorpe, couldn't they? Which we're going to get to later on.
Yeah, he was a pretty short price for the Grimthorpe as well. So it's all about the Grand National as well. Okay, it's a decent prize at Kelso, but it's still a stepping stone. And you just wonder, whether he's going to be absolutely bang on.
Now the weights are out. He's not got anything to worry about.
There's no need to. Yeah, but if he wanted to, it'd be an easier task to win a Grimthorpe, wouldn't it? Off his handicap mark, rather than running against horses that are rated a good deal higher than him, off the same weight.
Do you think they're hoping for maybe a tad more juice at Kelso?
No. I think he's very much a good ground horse.
Yeah, but it's going to be. We'll get to Donny, as I said, but it's going to be. I'm knocking it like it's going to be hard ground here.
Yeah, well,
sun is shining, Kills.
Yeah,
you're my weatherman usually.
Sun's shining up at Kelso as well, mate. It's drying out all the time. So I think he's a good ground horse. They've said that. It's not a problem for him.
So why come to the listed race? That's interesting, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean, it's just Ballard Briggs used it as a.
This could be a Hemmings call then.
Stone, so it's quite possible. He might be good enough to win it as well, but at the weights, I just have got a like 2 for gold. I mean, ASO has never convinced me at 3 miles. 2 for gold just held him off over 2.5 mile last time, and I think good ground around there.
He's course and distance winner, isn't he?
Distance winner. Will very much suit him.
The swing in the weights with ASO and the smaller field, I've gone for ASO because I watched that back, the finish at Warwick last time, and he was gaining on him towards the end.
Yeah, I know, but it
was a great ride by Bassi that day, wasn't it, on 2 for gold?
Another half mile was just different.
We'll see.
If it was 2 miles 6, I'd say.
He's just getting so much weight, isn't he, now? Yeah. It's a big turnaround, and it'll be interesting to see. He's also got Lakeview Lad in the race, Trevor Hemmings as well.
I thought that was the danger to 2 for gold, to be honest.
He's got the top weight, hasn't he?
Yeah, he's got the top weight, but he's earned his rate and he's a decent horse, yeah.
Adrian Heskin's had a look in this race. You like Cloth Cap. Now, this is interesting, Adrian. I want to ask you a question here that the viewers have been asking us all season. What is it about these front-running chasers in staying chases on good ground? They don't come back, do they? They haven't this season.
Good observation. I suppose if you have a front runner and he jumps very well, you're always able to fill up in front. I think Cloth Cap, I think on Saturday he might just be able to do that. He'll be able to roll along. Drying ground is a big plus for him. Jumps very well. I think he's the most likely winner in this, and he's the horse I really fancied for the National as well.
Just keep it simple. Yeah, you're not alone with the National, of course. News that Tiger Roll's been pulled as well. OK, Pat Cooney, Premier Chase.
Yeah, well, this is the first time we've sponsored at Kelso. We sponsor all 8 races. So when we got the Premier Chase and we saw Cloth Cap was entered in the Grimthorpe, and really, I think it would have been about a 6-4 favourite for the Grimthorpe were we to run. So the fact that he's turned up here was a great boost for the race. It's not there on official ratings. He's got £10 to find with Ace So and Definitely Red, but he's a horse going places, isn't he? So I wish the connections. Well, I actually think he can make the step up and make up the £10 deficit. He's just a horse, as say, he's improving all the time. But it's hard to draw, with the exception of Cool Mix, who's 50-1. You can leave the others in the race with a chance. But you look at Acer, don't you? 10 stone 12, receiving weight from the others. Better off at the weights with 2 for Gold. A slight concern, maybe it's. I think it's going to be -2 overnight, and it's going to be dry ground. So the ground's going to be drying out all the time there. He's obviously better with a bit of dig in the ground. But the form book would point to Ace. So 2-1, I wouldn't be saying he's a bet or anything, but I wouldn't want to be laying him at too big a price. But I'm going to go with Cloth Cap, and he's 14-1 national favourite now. If he wins, I probably could be single figures for the race after.
I think that is why this race will be of great interest. In Cloth Cap, if you're with him, you're hoping to see a sterling performance. Time for the big calls then this weekend from the panellists. I'm going to start, if you don't mind. Now, I know that the Grand Annual has been a great source of frustration to you since Sky Pirate became a real feather in your cap and then blew his handicap mark. I'm not saying he can't win it and he is nearly favourite, but how on the slopes is 20-1 for that? I have got no idea. The lead up looks perfect to me. I think I found the winner of the Grand Annual.
What did he show last time then?
Well, this has all been about waiting for the right ground. He ran well in a jumper's bumper. If you go back to that festival form, that Imperial Order, Simply the Bets, he is on. I just think this is a grossly overpriced horse because he's trained by Chris Gordon. He loves the festival, loves the ground, and he could give Imperial Order a big boost pre-Ryan Air. So that's me on the slopes.
Very interesting. Very interesting. I just want to give a big up to Millie Wanacott, who has ridden 2 16-1 shots for 2 different trainers over the last couple of days. Her overall strike rate is 20%, which is amazing for a £7 claim. She's just ridden out her claim. She's going to, when we come to the nap, she'll be right in mine. But I just think she's very good.
That £7, is it gone now? It's going to go
gone.
soon.
It goes after tomorrow because you get 72 hours grace after you ride it out. So her last 2 rides tomorrow, in the first 2 races at Newbury, with the last times that she can claim 7, she's still going to be very good value for 5. And her last 3 rides were for Neil King. Now Neil King latched on to Bryony, and I think her last 12 rides for him as a claimer, 5 of them won, 2 of them were second. So I wouldn't be surprised if Neil King uses Millie Wanacott a lot, but obviously Neil Mulholland's got plenty of ammunition. I just keep an eye on her.
You think we've got another one?
Well, at the moment, you're talking an ROI of 85%, just on a level stakes profit. She's that, riding against the SP that much better. So I think she's very much worth keeping an eye on.
Millie on an upward curbs, happy days. Pat Cooney, big call.
Yeah, I'm going to stick with the lady jockeys as well. Holly Doyle, Wednesday night at Kempton. She rode a 5-timer. Second time she's ridden 5 winners. 2,500 to 1 5-fold. And the horses she rode in the last race of the day, he only got beat a length as well. So you're looking at nearly a 10,000 to 1 6-fold. So fantastic jockey. 5 winners in a row, just doesn't bear thinking about, really. And I can tell you this much, from a liability point of view, it's not all about Frankie, it's not all about Ryan Moore, it's not all about anybody. It's only about one jockey riding today. The public absolutely adore Holly Doyle. If she's got 6 rides, we're laying her Hines. If she's got 5 rides, it's a Canadian. If she's riding 8, it's a Goliath. If she's riding 10, it's a super duper. It's a real headache for her. If she rides one winner, the directors are always coming up saying, what's she on next? What's she on next? Never used to say that about Frankie other than at Royal Ascot. Holly is the public's darling, and rightly so. And she was terrific. And I was slightly hiding behind the sofa with a ride in the last race, and then 10,000 to 1 accumulators, they're not much fun when you're sitting in a trading office.
I bet you were happy when she kicked too soon on that one in the last then.
It'll be a criticism in at the end.
Exactly, let's temper the enthusiasm. I mean, 2 out, that can lose. Okay, Adrian Heskin, let's go to Adrian Heskin then.
Brilliant.
You've got a dark horse for us, Adrian.
Yeah, I'm going to go with a horse that won a bumper for us in Doncaster called Masaccio, trained by Alan King. He's got an unbelievable flat pedigree, black type all over it. He's by Master Craftsman, and there's a chance he'll run a nice bumper before the end of the season, and he's a very promising hurdling career ahead of him next year.
Lovely. The viewers will love that as well. There were your big calls. Up to Kelso we go again for the 3:15, the Morebattle Hurdle. This has been won, by some interesting horses over the years. Nicky Henderson used to use this as a very late prep. Did Simon Siggett when it won? I seem to remember he went up there, didn't he?
I remember, might have done. But back in those days, it was a conditions race, and they were all falls on and falls
Now
on.
it's a handicap.
Now, it's probably the only race in the last 12 months that's worth miles more than it used to be.
Right. There is great prize money.
Oh, it's fantastic prize money.
Yeah.
It's the biggest race of the day.
Yeah.
Simple as that. It's worth almost twice as much as the Greatwood, remember. So, yeah.
Now, talking of the Greatwood, at Cheltenham in November, the shunter came out and won it. He then ran at the Dublin Festival over fences. I thought, this is my plate fancy. This is the one for the plate. He's running at Kelso. There's a couple of horses running at Kelso at the weekend. You've got to think, well, they're not going to turn up at Cheltenham now. Is it too soon?
I know it's not too. He's only doing 2 mile on good ground around Kelso. But that is what worries me. That combination, because 2 mile good ground.
Yeah.
I mean, you got to remember, he came under it quite a long way out at Cheltenham, didn't he?
And at Leopardstown.
And then powered through.
Yeah.
I mean, this is a sharp track, Kelso.
I just don't like him at the prices.
I think he's a terrible price for the sort of race it is. It's just and the track it's on and the ground it's on. So yeah, and I've got a conspiracy theory.
Oh, here we go. How long we got?
Love a conspiracy theory. Now, in the last 2 years, Harry Cobden has only once not ridden Grand Swansea. Right? And that was on a day that he didn't ride anywhere.
The mind is going to who's Nichols got in the race.
He's up north and he's riding solo from the top of the weights. Now, Solo was rated 157 after winning what turned out to be a dreadful Adonis.
But he looked the real deal,
But he
didn't
did that on a sharp track on good ground.
Yeah.
Right? And he's come out this year, and okay, he was beaten 16 lengths, giving £3 to So Royal in the Elite Hurdle at the beginning of the season, first time out. That just said this horse isn't quite up to that level. But in the context of a now handicap mark of 141, it ain't a bad run at all. And his next 2 runs, one was on absolutely bottomless ground behind Benson at Sandown, and the other one was 2 mile 5 soft at Lanzarote. I thought he was worth a chance, but he quite patently didn't stay.
Oh, that would be a big story, wouldn't it, if Solo bounced back?
Now he's running on good ground, on a sharp track, and Harry Cobden's gone up that way. Now, he's obviously got other rides at Kelso that are pretty good.
Grand Swansea would have been the call, wouldn't it?
But you'd have thought Grand Swansea would have been the call. He's ridden it every single time, apart from once at 5s on at Fontwell when Harry wasn't riding anywhere. So it just interests me. I think I think the horse has still got talent, and we may get to see it.
Interesting. Solo then. Did you think Kills was going to put that up? Adrian Heskin, have you had a look at the Morebattle?
I have, yes. I actually really like the horse of Ollie Murphy's Hunter's Call. I know he has form to turn around with the favourite, the shunter, but with the revised weights, it brings them very close together. I think his last couple of he's been third in his last 2 runs over 2 mile 5 around Kempton and 2 mile 4. I think dropping back in trip, he actually made the running in the Galway Hurdle, so he's loads of speed. He'll like the hustle and bustle of the race. If Aidan Coleman can get a nice run through with him from mid-division or that, I think Kelso is a track that will really suit him. I like him at a nice price.
Okay, that's an interesting one for Ollie Murphy then. Okay, Pat Cooney, the shunter looks like he's going to be a short price. Are you with or against?
I respect him very much so, and I certainly respect Emmett Mullins. But there's a lot of life in this market yet, because I think it's fair to say we've kind of priced this race up, working on the basis that we have the healthy respect for Emmett Mullins' horse. So we wanted to be short him and defensive during the week, and ditto really whatever Dan Skelton was going to run. He runs favour. who's got that progressive novice profile. There's plenty of talented horses. I agree with Keels. You look at Solo, go back 11 and a half months, he was favourite for the Triumph Hurdle. So, he's very much of interest. Hunter's Call, as Adrian says, has got that good handicap form. So there's horses I think will concertina up in the market. And there's a lot of life in it. It's 70 grand to the winner. And I must point out, whatever wins this race, if they go on a win at this year's festival, they get another 100 grand on top. So that didn't escape Emmett Mullins and Dan Skelton. I'm looking at a horse called Tommy's Oscar. I think he's had plenty of races really, but his last run was his best run so far. And the horse he was beaten by Bareback Jack. He runs earlier on in the card, so if he were to frank the form, he runs in the 1:30 in a decent novice hurdle. Check how well he runs. If he comes out and runs ever so well, that'll be appointed to Tommy's Oscar. Another one of interest, really, Night Edition of David Pipe. He's come up here. When David Pipe was a guest on the show, I think he mentioned him as a horse that might have a decent race in him this year. Hasn't happened so far for him, but it has been on soft ground. Going to be goodish ground at Kelso. He's in the equation. I see a lot of these 16-1 chances shortening up in the market, and the ones at the front of it, solid chances, but they're going to get bigger, I think.
Well, there was me waiting to give a compelling case for Night Edition, and he's just got an absolutely stolen my thunder there. I echo what you say there pretty much, and I better get on before that 16 does go. This is an interesting horse, isn't it, Night Edition? We'll talk about Tommy's Oscar just quickly as well, because it's a horse you like. Night Edition last year, second in the Boodles. Brought him out at Ascot, you remember, quite rightly. David Pipe came on this show just before he ran that weekend at Ascot with his terrible ground, so he's 10 days behind. They then took him to the Betfair Hurdle at Newbury. The start was a messy start, if you remember. They thought he left it behind there. Watch your replay back. Just as they're about to stop the replay, he's coming. I think he's overpriced. And off a mark of 129, he's not going to get in a county, is he? This is the last roll of the dice to get him in the festival.
This just lets you know how open this race is. Now, as we're speaking, as soon as the decks came out, it was 2-1, 9-4 to Shunter. He's a 7-2 shot, at least, body off. Okay. Because there are that many horses.
Tommy's Oscar?
You can I like Tommy's Oscar, yeah. I mean, another one for Anne Hamilton. She's done so well, with nuts well. And, she looks like she's got a decent hurdle on the card, and he is progressive. He's definitely got a chance.
Yeah, whatever wins this will know it's been in a battle. 3:30 then, the final terrestrial race on television this weekend is the Grimthorpe Chase. Small field, Keels. Now, the last time, I thought, hang on a minute, this is an unusually small field. I look back to the last time it was run on good ground, similar.
Yeah, it's quite. It does happen, doesn't it? It's almost turned into a small field veterans chase as well, isn't it? There's some old boys in it, but there's obviously the youngest horse in the race, Canelo. You can see why he's favourite.
He's got good ground form.
You can see why he's a short price, and he's got good form. He ran in the Sky Bet Chase last time. He was finishing fourth. One of the ones that saw him off, the winner, was a 12-year-old trained by Nicky Richards. Now, Nicky Richards is just amazing with these older horses. You think Simply Ned, Duke of Navan, who runs on the card, and he's got Chidswell in here. Chidswell won this race 2 years ago on good ground, seeing off a very well fancied Alan King trained runner called Dingo Dollar, who I'd actually filled my boots on, unfortunately. I'm going with Chidswell this time. I think he showed when he was third to Some Chaos earlier in the season, he's still got it. I'm sure that run on bottomless ground over hurdles at Haydock last time was just to keep him fresh.
To get him nice for this.
Just to keep him fresh for this. He's not a hurdler too. He's definitely not a heavy ground horse. And in terms of his form on over hurdles, it wasn't actually bad for him. So I think he's just been teed up for this. The ground has come right, and I will take on the younger Canelo with him.
Yeah, I'm taking him on as well. I wasn't overly impressed with Canelo's jumping last time in the Sky Bet. Watch it back, he fiddles quite a few now, probably due to the gallop they were going. He was so good at Weatherby, wasn't he, in the Roman Merrick.
Easy expenses, probably.
Probably. I'm going to take him on with another course and distance with another old boy called Special Prep. He's gone absolutely missing, this chap, but he hasn't had his ground all season. He needs good ground. And there were green shoots of recovery, and then one of those bumpers at Newcastle last time. We bet your bottom dollar this will have been the Prep, and he's got his ground. So for me, it's Special Prep. Adrian Heskin, have you had a look at the Grimthorpe?
I have. I'm actually a very big fan of Canelo. I think the drying ground is really going to suit him. Best of his form back along is all on drying ground. I think in the Sky Bet, the ground was very testing in Doncaster that day. I don't think it played to his strengths, albeit it was soft when he won in Weatherby a start before that. Tom Bellamy's reunited with him, only £5 higher off winning the Roland Merrick around Weatherby. And I think the younger legs are going to come out on top. He's a horse I really like. I think he's probably going to win.
Keeping it simple then. Interesting that Tom Bellamy back on. Did get on really well at Wetherby. Pat Cooney, the Grimthorpe.
Yeah, I look at Canelo, and he's the only horse in any sort of decent form, isn't he? The rest of them seem so woefully out of touch. It's by elimination. You have to suppose he'll win. And I thought it was interesting. Alan King was a guest on the show a week ago, and he was suggesting that the Connections were keen to have a crack at the Aintree Grand National. So they clearly think a bit of him. But he's not going to be any bargain because he's the only one in any sort of a form. My eye's drawn to Just a Sting, Harry Fry, who had a welcome winner last week. Liada's been a little bit below par by their standards. You have to be lenient with Just a Sting. I mean, his form figures, they're like a postcode, aren't they? P41, FPP8, wouldn't thrill you, but a yard coming back to form, he's one of similar marks. I'd rather shop around and oppose Canelo at his likely price. So Just the Sting might just do for me.
Just the Sting, he does need to bounce back. There are your Grimthorpe selections. Time to bring in the guys at myracing.com as ever for their weekend double. They're going for an old favourite, 240 Premier Chase at Kelso, Lakeview Lad, and the race after at Doncaster, 255. Look no further than Ballywood. Weekend winner time for you, and if you don't mind, I shall start off 220 at Doncaster. Needs to improve, but there are lots of reasons thinking Alpha Carini will do so in the colours of Tim Sider for Ollie Murphy and Richard Johnson. Up to 3 miles, absolutely perfect on good ground in the mares listed novice hurdle. Kealy.
You know me, when there's a veterans chase on, I'm deep in the form, and I really like Shanty Village. She's got Millie Wanacott riding. It will be her last ride, was claiming £7. Go back to his first run this season. He's beaten just under 2 lengths by Present Man, who is favourite. With her claim, he's £9 better off. He fell very early in the rehearsal. Well, he fell at the first in the unseated, in the first in the rehearsal, and then ran bottomless ground by Royal Kempton, which doesn't suit him. Back on good ground, which he loves. I think he'll end up going on Fav.
Okay, all right, there you go. The formerly very talented Shantu Village for Kills. Pat Cooney.
205 Kelso, the Bet365 handicap hurdle. Torn and Frayed, horse that trotted up in a handicap hurdle at Hereford a week ago. The Twiston Davis team, they're wheeling them out pretty quick, so they must feel he's got a £7 penalty, 1 by 10. I think they're obviously feeling he should be going up a bit more than that, and rightly so. He would just beginning to look a little bit disappointed, being beaten favourite in a couple of maiden hurdles, but he seemed to get his act together. This is now a Class 2, so life is harder for him. But I just want to be with him until he gets beaten, and I think he can win the 205 at Kelso.
Thank you very much, Pat Cooney, completing the 4-time, and then over to Adrian Heskin.
Yeah, I'm going to go to the 330 in Doncaster. A horse we've touched on already, Canelo. I think he's a good bet for the weekend. Come back onto good ground. Trainer Alan King's horses are absolutely flying, and I think he could put up a very good performance in Doncaster.
Lovely, confident about the Fav in the Grimthorpe then. Adrian, it would be remiss of us to let you go without asking about your book at Cheltenham. We've obviously touched on Tritonic. He'd be your main chance, but is there anything else that you're really excited about?
Yeah, look, I'm very fortunate to have probably the strongest book of rides I've ever had going forward into Cheltenham. I suppose Tritonic Escari at 10. He has 2 options in the Ultima or the National Hunt Chase. He's been improving all season, and really looking forward to riding him as well. 3 under through 5 for Paul Nichols in the Albert Bartlett. He's after winning 3 from 3 this season, albeit not very flashy, but I think the Albert Bartlett's a race that'll really suit him. Good stamina test. And you could see him run nicely in that as well.
Okay, yes indeed, the Musselburgh winner. All right, thank you very much, Adrian Heskin. There are your 4-timer stroke 5-timer.
But was that his Cheltenham nap?
Was that your Cheltenham nap, Adrian?
No, there is a horse I quite fancy. I suppose I wouldn't call him a nap, but I think he's a little bit overpriced for what he's done. I'm a big fan of the horse of John Joe O'Neill's Soaring Glory. I think the experience he's gained in Newbury is going to stand him in great stead. A horse full of class. I think in the Supreme Novice it'll really be ran to suit him, and I can just see him coming down to the last full of running, and he's a horse I'd be really looking forward to watching that.
Happy days, yeah. Soaring glory for John Joe in the first. That's the first time we've ever had a guest give 3 naps.
We've got to push him a bit harder, haven't we?
We've got to push him a bit harder. You've set a precedent, Adrian. Happy days. Time to sign off then on another week's What a Shout. What a week indeed it has been. Onwards and upwards the show must go on. We're getting excited for Cheltenham now, Kills, but great weekend of action. Feet up again, is it?
Yeah, that's all you can do at the moment, isn't it? But yeah, but no, this is a really fine weekend's worth of racing. Three decent cards on ITV. I'm looking forward to it.
Yeah, happy days. We'll see you back during Cheltenham week.
Yeah, all week. Yeah, be looking forward to it.
Yeah, What a Shout will be coming to you each and every morning, 9 o'clock. Don't miss that live. What can possibly go wrong each morning of the Cheltenham Festival. Pat Cooney, thanks to you.
Yeah, thanks very much, fellas. And we sponsor all 8 races at Kelso on the Saturday, so hope it goes very well for them. They put a lot of effort into them up there, so good luck to all the fellas up there.
Magnificent prize money at Kelso and a decent card to boot that. Adrian Heskin, great to have you on, man. All the best going forward. Big Cheltenham Festival ride and this weekend as well.
Thanks very much. Yeah, as you say, big weekend and really looking forward to Cheltenham. This is what we do it for, so exciting few weeks ahead, and thanks very much for having me.
Great to have you watching as well. Don't forget, if you're on YouTube, like and subscribe. Twitter, #WhatAShout for all the questions for the panellists. Get them in. We love reading the feedback. Don't forget to download the must-have Racing Post app. You can do that on the App Store or the Google Play Store indeed. Safe gambling. Cheltenham is on the horizon. Take your time, be steady, and more importantly, enjoy the sport.